Is time travel really possible? A question every millennial has asked at least twice. If art is an imitation of reality, and art in the form of novels and movies has shown us that time travel is possible, then surely there should be some form of possibility existing even in real life, right? Well, if you've asked these questions, then you're definitely not alone, and we'll be unraveling what time travel really is and whether it's possible in real life or not. Without further ado, let's dive in. When discussing time travel, there are basically two types of time travel. The first is traveling backward in time, perhaps to see a loved one again, or maybe to warn your younger self about impending doom. But we all know, as our movies have taught us, that you can never afford the cost of changing the past. This means no matter what the case is, the past should never be changed, as it can result in worse troubles. The second type of time travel is traveling forward, into the future. This could be to see what the future holds for someone, and if he or she should continue on a certain path, or it could also be for other reasons. So, these types of time travel, are they concepts only possible in movies like Harry Potter, or should you keep your hopes up and believe that they could happen in real life? We all know that the concept of time travel is one that has been embraced by science fiction and debated by theoretical physicists. Theoretical physicists haven't yet been able to come to a conclusion if it's possible to travel back into the past, as some believe that it'd practically be impossible to travel to the past because just the mere act of transmitting information into the past can change things, even if those things have already happened and they should not be changed. These physicists believe that the concept of traveling to the past is self-contradictory in a way. Imagine you had a serious injury because you went on a certain route and lost your arm in the process. So you decided to travel back to the past and warn yourself not to go on that route at that time, so you don't lose your arm. Now, imagine you were successful with your mission, and you never went on that route and also never lost your arm. Wouldn't that mean that you'd have no reason to travel back in time? And if you have no reason to travel back in time, does this mean you lost your arm or not? If the mere thought of this is giving you a headache, then we're in this together. My bet is on the fact that even those renowned physicists are also in this confusion, and that's why traveling back to the past is still a dead end. There are some who believe that traveling to the past is definitely possible and could prove to be useful in dire scenarios. So on traveling into the past, they haven't exactly been able to come to a conclusion. For traveling into the future, physicists and scientists alike have concluded that it's definitely possible. They've also concluded that it doesn't require a DeLorean or a wormhole to achieve. Dilation is what makes time travel in real life possible. It's one of Einstein's special relativity properties, and Albert Einstein was unsurprisingly the first person to discover that time is not a constant element as generally believed, but instead slows down and moves faster, depending on how it's moving through space. A part of Einstein's theory featured him re-envisioning space, and from there he coined the term space-time. Space-time was a description of what happened when he fused the three dimensions of space and a single dimension of time into one term. He did this by thinking of space as curved and malleable, possessing the ability to form gravitational dips around masses and draw in other objects. He took this approach rather than the general approach of treating space as a flat and rigid place, which holds all the objects in the universe. You can imagine his theory as a bowling ball carefully placed right in the middle of a trampoline. This would cause any other object of similar characteristics placed on the trampoline to inevitably slide to the center. The closer the object gets to the middle of the dip, the faster it moves. It's just the same with the Earth. The center of the Earth's gravitational dip is right at the Earth's core, and this is where gravitational acceleration is strongest. Based on Einstein's theory, since time moves slowly as you advance through space, this means that the closer an object is to the Earth's center, the slower time moves for that object. The same effect in Einstein's theory is well represented in GPS satellites that orbit 20,200 kilometers above the Earth's surface. The GPS satellites possess specific, precise clocks on board which have an added average of 38 microseconds daily as a result of time dilation. While the time gain of 38 microseconds might prove to be largely inconsequential and irrelevant, GPS satellites still have to depend on their onboard clocks to help them maintain a precise global positioning. By running 38 microseconds fast, a positioning error of almost 10 kilometers would definitely occur, and this error would daily increase if the time difference was not corrected constantly. For a clearer and perhaps more dramatic example of time dilation, Interstellar proves to work perfectly. Matthew McConaughey and his crew landed on a planet that had an extreme gravitational field as a result of a black hole close by. Due to the intense gravitational pull from the black hole, time dramatically slowed down for the crew on the planet, and this made 1 hour on the surface equal to 7 full years on planet Earth. This is why when Matthew McConaughey returned to Earth, his daughter had now become an old woman, even though he hadn't advanced in age in any way. Time dilation at its peak. One might wonder, if time travel is truly possible, then why hasn't humanity started making huge leaps forward in time? Why has no one gone to 2050 to tell us if the zombies have awoken or if robots have taken over? The missing piece of the puzzle is one word: velocity. For humanity to send a traveler years into the future to gain insight into future occurrences, we'd have two options. Either to take advantage of the intense gravitational acceleration that comes from black holes, or we'd send the traveler rocketing into space at a speed close to the speed of light, which is about 1 billion kilometers an hour. But for now, technology hasn't advanced to get to that point, and we wouldn't want to fry our traveler in space, so all we can afford right now is a time jump to a few microseconds. Perhaps Perhaps someday technology will permit us to send a human into the future by traveling at the speed of light. But even if this is successful, would there be a way for her to be transported back into the present to report her discoveries? A professor of astrophysics at the University of British Columbia once stated that interstellar travel reaching close to the speed of light might be possible, but this voyage is one way, into the future, not back to the past. The point is that due to the fact that traveling back in time is still technically impossible, then even if one gets to the future, there'd be no way for one to travel back into the past because, well, in the future, the present becomes the past, and there's no way to travel to the past. One might argue that if the traveler is transported into the future by traveling at the speed of light, then maybe the opposite would work. But how do you reduce speed to become so slow that its number is negative? In fact, if it's negative, would it work at all? If we can't make use of time dilation to travel back to the past, then does this mean that the past will forever be inaccessible? Does this mean that time travel would forever be impossible? Just the mere thought of this is heartbreaking, and I like to believe that Einstein must have also felt this pain. This is probably why he proposed that time travel into the past is still achievable. Cue the applause for this talented mind. So Einstein's theory was that time travel could be achieved through an Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is technically a type of wormhole. Theoretically, wormholes are areas of space-time that are warped in a specific way to connect two distant points in space. From Einstein's equations, this bridge in space could connect 2 points in time if, hypothetically speaking, it was stable enough. But physicists have stated that the wormhole cannot be used because it's too unstable and doesn't live well long enough. These physicists even went all the way to say that wormholes would always remain science fiction. Way to go, physics, breaking hearts as usual. Traveling back in time is one of the most cherished and fantastical aspirations that most humans wish for. Wouldn't it be awesome to go back in time and see that loved one who left without saying goodbye? Or go farther in time and show Albert Einstein that we made him proud and that time travel does work? It'd be even more fascinating to go farther to see the dinosaurs. But perhaps our physicists are right. Perhaps it's best the past remains untouched. Traveling back to the past means that one is willing to make a change, which could seem so little but still be able to destroy the future. Another movie example of this near tragedy is from Back to the Future. Marty McFly travels to the past and prevents his parents from meeting each other. Naturally, this means that he almost wiped out his own existence. And if he'd done this, how would he have traveled back in time in the first place? The adventures of Marty in this movie show a variation of the grandfather paradox, which asks what happens if you go back in time and kill your grandfather even before your father is conceived. If you succeed in your task, how would you remain alive to even have succeeded in the first place? Like, if he does die, who would be the murderer? A grandson that doesn't exist? However, researchers have shown that a time travel free of this paradox is possible, as the universe will correct itself to avoid inconsistencies. This means that even if we could travel back in time, we'd never be able to change events. I'll leave you with this quote from Stephen Hawking. "The best evidence we have that time travel into the past is not possible and will never be is that we have not been invaded by hordes of tourists from the future." That'll be all for today, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stuff. See you in the next one.